They both were so excited when Luke mentioned that he met the other Force user. He's like, you do?
Oh.
What's their name? Where are they?
What's your name?
Yeah.
Why do you think he is interested in Mara Jade? Like, I know he's just trying to collect Force users to make...
Right now it's collect Force users, something, profit.
Complete the Pokedex. It's Meeple's turn to host the podcast.
Yeah.
That's a goose.
No goose?
Alright. Hello there. You found the Lost Holocron, an ancient artifact of lore and legend from a galaxy far, far away. Each transmission, the Lost Holocron will be... Each transmission of the Lost Holocron, you will join an episodic discussion of media from the Star Wars universe. We have Earth.
I'm Earth?
Water. Wind.
Who is water?
Sky. is water.
Oh. Splash.
Stewart. Wind.
Activate helicopter.
I'm Heart. And once we get our fifth member, Fire, we, the Planeteers, will form Captain Planet, and we send Earth back into the turtle destination.
Captain Planet, he's a
hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero.
We need a return of Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Did you guys see the Rick and Morty episode? That was actually pretty good.
Al Planetina, yeah.
Rick and Morty has good episodes still?
Yeah. That was a while ago. That was a while ago.
We will be covering material up to and including Chapter 14 of Dark Wars. Shut up.
Whoa.
We will be covering material up to and including Chapter 14 of Dark Force Rising. Tim, what's going on in this fucking story?
All right. The story so far. Not the last of the old Jedi Luke, the first of the new. Luke Skywalker is overwhelmed and nonplussed about the role thrust upon him. He lacks the confidence to teach his sister and her unborn twins. During an engagement over Nkllon with an Imperial raiding party, his mind is touched by a mysterious Jedi claiming that the Jedi will rise again. Following the voice to Jormark, Luke runs afoul of further Imperial entanglement, causing major delays in his quest to seek out this mysterious Jedi Master. After almost a complete reset back to Coruscant, where he learns a little of Jorus C'baoth, Luke accompanies Han Solo and Lando Calrissian to New Cove, where he is called upon in a tapcafe to arbitrate a dispute that Luke feels unqualified to have offered his judgment on. Imperial activity in the sector separates Luke from Han and Lando and forces them to flee the planet. Unhindered by alternative obligations, Luke makes the jump to Jormark. Little does Luke know that he is not going to meet the true C'baoth, but a clone that has been in an unstable alliance with the Imperial remnants. This C'baoth has shown himself to be wayward to the demands of the Empire, and harbors a desire to mold the Skywalkers to some other nefarious purpose. Stuart, what happened in this chapter?
Some really fucking awesome happens in this chapter.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this one. Luke arrives to Jormark and follows his intuition to C'baoth's castle. The Jedi Master is authoritative, but not at all what Luke expects. C'baoth wastes no time in beginning his tutorship with Luke. Leaving R2 with the X-Wing, they travel to the village at the foot of the hill. Within one of the houses, they sense a disturbance and enter to intervene. C'baoth's decree is swift and decisive. Luke, taken aback by the lack of nuance, leaves open an opportunity for the convicted to dive for a weapon. But before Luke can react, C'baoth unleashes cascades of force lightning, subduing the aggressor and, in his own words, leaving a lasting lesson. At the end of the day, Luke goes outside to confide in R2 that, while he needs instruction, he has doubts about the elderly Jedi Master's sanity.
Damn it.
Damn it, Kyle. Back to Star Wars. Jennings would be Hart, honestly.
But I want to be Hart.
Kyle is the
fine.
Hart.
I'll be Fire. I have Fire in me too. Whatever.
That is the first time I've been typed as Earth ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But this wasn't from an Avatar standpoint.
No, like in anything ever, I've never been typed as Earth. Any media.
Yeah. If you want to get a little bit of the inside, it was going to start out as an Earth, Wind, and Fire joke.
Do you remember?
Yeah, it was going to be Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I always remember September.
Nice, that would have been good.
Yeah. Damn, guys. Finally happened.
Yeah.
Crazy
We've
chapter.
been anticipating this for quite a while.
Yeah, we got a new planet, a new environment.
How did it compare to your expectations?
I think it's interesting. There's a lot of Luke being like, "You're nothing like the Jedi I've met before," and I've met 2 of them. One of them was days away from dying.
And the other was kind of like my uncle.
Yeah, he killed himself just to get away from me.
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting, that kind of black and white thinking that we've tagged Luke in before about a Jedi must look like this or a Jedi must look like that. And not thinking that there is a lot of variance in how the Jedi might present themselves or present their views of the Force or whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting and in line with what Luke has been with in this these books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would definitely compare this guy to, if I had only met like a few Jedi, like I would definitely compare him to those other ones. Granted, it's only 2, but there's like some consistency between the 2 of them. And this guy's just like pretty far off base.
Yeah. Do you think this is what Luke expected to meet when he was looking for Yoda on Dagobah?
No.
Not really.
No, I don't think so.
I think maybe the initial reaction of him, like definitely not the abrasiveness that he started showing almost immediately, but I think he definitely probably expected to come upon a scene of a stoic, strong-willed man with his beard blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
I think he expected to see power and might, but not authority. And I think that's the difference between C'baoth and this other expectation.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by the distinction of might and authority?
Like someone who is very powerful in combat and force ability, but not someone who is flexing this level of authority over other people.
Flexing their abs.
Yeah. He probably expected someone to be flexing their abs, so maybe at first he was like, "Oh wow, finally!"
Finally. I mean, I think he got the. I think he was looking for somebody like more benevolent and like definitely less authoritative,
but he's also, I mean, he's also looking for different things out of the teaching at these 2 different points.
Yeah.
Because when he's looking for the great warrior, it's because he wants to be a great warrior.
right.
And that's what he feels he needs in the rebellion. And now he feels he needs to know how to teach well. And so he's like, hey, please be a good teacher that's not a dick to people.
Yeah, I think he was looking for somebody more of like a teacher type.
Yeah, because I feel like the comparisons that were brought up because it wasn't just one mention, but multiple mentions to he isn't like Yoda, he isn't like Ben. What was I looking for when I first looked into this, and now what am I looking for? I feel like C'baoth was what he was looking for originally. He was looking for the warrior, the one that came out and like just spewed lightning from his fingers and was able to help him battle with Darth Vader and the Empire and the Emperor, which C'baoth definitely would have been, well, given him those powers if he embodied C'baoth in the original trilogy, but he got given the diminutive Yoda, whereas now he's looking for Yoda and gets the warrior that he was originally looking for, but maybe wasn't what he needed.
Yeah, that tracks pretty well. Yeah, I don't read C'baoth as like a great warrior, but I see what you're getting at there. Yeah,
but like that's what I think a great warrior looks like to a young kid. Of like, oh, they're powerful and they hold a great sword and shoot lightning from their fingertips,
their abs everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but then now he is a little bit more worldly and wise, and what he wants is what a great warrior is not just physically very strong, but also mentally very capable, and is looking for that verbal judo, not just the physical. I'm gonna more of the immovable object rather than the unstoppable force.
That's a good point. Yeah. Do you think when they were settling that dispute between the two residents later, do you think C'baoth even listened to each of the villagers' residents' arguments?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either. What I think, because he mentions at some point, is like judgment is... Wait, hold on, I wrote that down. Judgment is merely a matter of listening to the Force. And so I feel like he was just casually listening to whatever this argument was. And I like the phrase where it says, and when they ran out of words, C'baoth gave his judgment.
Right. He definitely wasn't listening.
Yeah, he wasn't listening. He was just like, what are the Force vibes off these guys? Okay,
Yeah.
Sven, you pay up.
It's just like you in particular this day. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I remember you. You're an asshole last week, so I don't care. I don't care what you have to say.
That probably is it, honestly.
You refuse
I just
to
like the
drive my
delivery.
tricycle around.
This guy sold me some bad pot.
This guy's bow was lower last week, so he gets off this time.
I like how he did it in the third person as well. He was just like, C'baoth's judgment, here it comes. Sven, pay up.
Yeah.
This will happen immediately. Adjourned.
I did think it was interesting that they're clearly not that afraid of him, though. Because rather than to pay up, he did go for a gun in order to kill somebody. I don't know who he thought he was going to kill with that gun. Unless he was going for it to kill himself rather than face the
Oh no!
He's like, I don't want to get lightninged again. I'm just going to off myself.
Yeah.
But I do think he was going for the gun to more likely kill, either take a shot at C'baoth or the other person he was in the argument with. So I mean, it's not like he came in and they started cowering in fear.
Yeah. I think because C'baoth at the end says, would you prefer that? I'm calling him Sven, but like, what were those names?
I don't know.
Sven and Ben, yeah.
Sven and Ben. But yeah, he was going for the plaintiff, I think, in the end, because C'baoth is like, oh, would you rather that the other guy is dead? And he's like, it's Sven and Tom. So Sven's going to pay Tom.
Birth names.
And so I think that Sven was going to kill Tom, and because that's what C'baoth said, is like, oh, would you rather he's dead right now? Because right now he's just got a boo-boo that he's just going to remember for a very long time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Something about a lesson or something, right?
Oh, yeah, that line too. I wrote that one down. If you allow your justice to be forgotten, you'll be forced to repeat the same lessons. I thought that was a good line.
I think one of my favorite parts in the book is when Luke first arrives and he is like, "Sorry that I'm late. Things got a little bit out of control." And Jorus is like, "Oh, why'd you let that happen?"
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, he had all this talk about lesser beings and being in control, always in control. One, do you think he's in that position or thinks he's in that position with the Empire?
I think he does think that he's in control.
Yeah, I think he does.
So he's completely delusional.
If he wouldn't be with them if he thought that he was being manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think he thinks he's in control, but I think he believes he should be in control. And I think he thinks it's just a matter of time until he is in control.
That's a
Right.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the impression that he thinks he's in a little more control than he actually is.
Because he is like disobeying orders as well to do whatever he wants during these engagements with the battles.
Yeah, I think he feels like he has a little more free range than he actually has.
Well,
To do
clearly
whatever
he
he
has it
wants.
because he's not
Yeah.
getting
Well, he
anything.
does, yeah,
he's not
but-
being demoted
Yeah.
as much as Paleon might want to demote him.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kyle?
I don't know. I'm still not sure what he wants. Like, obviously he wants Jedi. I'm just not sure. I don't know. There's a lot of this chapter made me question so many things about him. I'm not sure, starting to wonder if he knows if he's a clone or not.
You think he does?
I think he might.
Huh.
I still don't think he does.
And I wonder if him. I'm curious if him doing the reason why he trains his body so much is because it's not stable.
Oh, he's trying to keep it stable from breaking
Right.
down.
That's why he's got the rock hard abs.
Right. The Bovex. The Ab Master. He's carbo loading every night.
Carbo loading, running up and down that mountain every morning.
Yep.
He's just constantly flexing, and that's how he burns calories and builds muscle.
He has one of those like things that you strap to your abs that like jiggles it all day.
He sleeps with those.
It's right underneath the robe.
He sleeps in gravity boots.
Nobody's showing them off all the time. So.
He's just showing the top two abs.
Right, okay.
He wears crop tops.
So you think he's a clone? You think he thinks he's a clone?
I think he might know that he's a clone. Or like have a vague sense of it.
He might be starting to suspect it.
You think because when Luke asked him about what happened on the outbound flight, that
Yeah.
he's like, it
He
He
changed
wouldn't
me.
know about that. Like, 'cause, like that's where the real one died, so it's not like he would have memories of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, the clones, well, the clones in Attack of the Clones don't have Jango Fett's memory, so,
Mm-hmm.
they do need to be trained as an army.
I don't know.
Speaking of which, I had I had a note here that says when he asks him about his past, that C'baoth is like, well, I have trauma over this, and Lucas, tell me more. And C'baoth is, no. Like, he's clearly disturbed, and you've just met this guy. Why are you asking him to elaborate on something that he said had changed him dramatically?
Right.
wants some good old Jedi wisdom. C'baoth's just like, no, that's fine.
I'm very excited about. It's not. I'm very excited. He was very excited. They both were so excited when Luke mentioned that he met the other Force user. He's like, "You do?
Mhm.
What's their name? Where
You
are
do?
they?"
What's your name? Yeah.
I like that he also said, well, she called herself Mara Jade, so that that's maybe not her name.
Yeah, he's still kind of doubting it.
No. Why do you think he is interested in Mara Jade? Like, I know he's just trying to collect Force users to make something in the end.
Right. Yeah.
But, like,
right now, it's collect Force users, something, profit.
complete the Pokedex.
I mean, my first thought is like restart the Jedi Order, but if that's the case, I can't say that I'm not rooting for him.
Yeah.
Well, I think he also kind of, I think Luke got that impression from him when he contacted him.
The Jedi will rise again.
Yeah.
And he wants to... He said the reasons for calling him was to complete Luke's training. So he thinks that Luke is not fully a Jedi, which Luke also... We talked about, like, is he tapping into something in Luke, or does he just, because he's not worthy enough for C'baoth, thinks that he is incomplete in his training?
I think it's because he's not worthy enough for C'baoth. Yeah, I think C'baoth just has his own idea of what a Jedi should be.
Yeah.
And then that folds back into the second thing that I wanted to ask is, what is C'baoth's philosophy? Because he wants to ask for help in carrying on his life's work, and talks about the lesser beings are going to squabble under us, but we are rulers of some kind, or why does he give his judgment down if he just thinks that that's beneath him?
Yeah, and doesn't he say something along the lines like only Jedi are able to like establish true justice or something like that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I thought he said something along the lines like only Jedi were able to establish true justice or something like that.
Yeah. True justice is what the Force deems us to say.
A very righteous notion.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels very Spanish Inquisition or or just Templar Knights go out and spread the word of God. We know what the word of God is, but, you know, you guys need to build a church in every town for us.
Yeah.
Speaking of lesser beings, droids, he does not like them at all.
Nope.
Abominations.
No, he doesn't.
Abominations.
Yeah.
So rude.
Was he saying something like they can think, but they're not part of the Force or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Reasoning or...
He really doesn't like anything that isn't a part of the Force, or at least that's what he says.
My first thought when he was like, no, that can't be here, was like, he doesn't want anything to scan him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I didn't think that. Yeah, because he says droids are abominations, creations that reason, but yet are not genuine parts of the Force.
I mean, I can see from his point of view, if you are connected to a all-powerful force that gives you judgment, and then you find out something that is out there making decisions that has no thoughts or feelings on that.
Well, again, if he only thinks that justice comes from the Force, then he probably thinks that whatever decisions or justice that droids come up with is just counterfeit or whatever.
Right. Yeah, because if to him there's the Force There's him, the tuning fork that allows him to that allows the Force to spread its word to the people, and then there's just droids that are these outside things that have no connection. So why do they have any choice?
Right.
How do you guys feel about a droid connected to the Force?
I think they already are, and I would love to see one actively using it. I think that would be a wonderful Star Wars concept.
But the thing is, droids don't have any blood, so they don't have the special little beans in them that allow them to do it.
Oh,
Yeah, they don't have any chlorians.
Yeah.
God damn it, George.
Well, and that was something I always like from Destiny universe. It's like, how can Exos use the light? But we come to find out later that they have like the Vex radiolaria, which is actually like a microscopic, kind of like a midichlorian, but so that makes sense, I guess, sort of. So maybe droids have something along the lines that, I mean, do we know if they have any kind of like organic compounds, or they all do we know for sure?
Not sure.
I don't think so. Like they're mechanical in that way. Mechanicals and numbers and bits and circuits. But I don't know. I don't know, Tim. I'm not with you on whether droids should be Force users.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, if they're completely mechanical, I don't understand how they could be a part of the Force. But
yeah,
I'm just here for the ride.
It's an energy field between everything, created by everything. Droids are part of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it would be really cool to come up with like a story arc where, this droid can use the Force. I think that'd be really badass.
Yeah.
So we just need droids to have their independent will that somehow resonates with the Force in a way. Do they get like a... what do they call them in KOTOR that you can equip your droids with, like different packages?
Like the droid arms?
No, not the droid arms. The other ones, the one that you put in the brains to like upgrade their combat abilities.
Like the droid computer thing? I forget what it's called.
Yeah, there's like a droid targeting computer and stuff like that. Whether they've got
I think they're called
Force
different
module.
things. Yeah, but the Force module.
For me, this raises the question. Darth Vader, more man than machine. Like he was using, like I assume he used his robotic arms to use the Force.
Well, I guess in a way, but
He just couldn't do lightning because that was tricky.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Some problems.
I heard. Well, that too, but I also heard he couldn't use the lightning because he needed organic fingers to use lightning.
Yeah, that's my interpretation. Is that he can't project lightning from himself because he can't project it through the mechanical arms.
I interpreted it as it would like mess up his support systems.
I'm sure it would too, because I mean, look at what
probably.
Palpatine did to him when Vader picked him up.
Currently in the canon comics, the thing is that he is in a inferior suit. They put him into like a rough suit to get him going, and there's an upgrade that he is able to do but refuses to do it because he hates himself.
Right.
And in the shoot that he currently has, he cannot use the lightning, but he could do it if he used the upgrade.
Right.
Yeah. I think he's a lot more terrifying when he just chokes people to death anyway.
Yeah.
Speaking
it
of,
seems more. Oh, sorry, but choking is supposed to be like a really intimate thing too, and like he's like actually reaching out and just like grabbing them, crushing them, basically instead of the lightning. It doesn't really seem like it's his style. The crushing and the choking seems like it's more of his style because he's like crushing the life out of them.
Unless that time when we talked about Force lightning being an extension of your will is true.
Yeah.
Then it is pretty intimate still.
Yeah.
I think, like, you mentioned him being able to use his mechanical arms to manipulate the Force. Like, I think that's just a like a physical gesture to focus your will, but I think that it all comes from the mind in the end. Like, you could do all this stuff with the mind, and you, like Yoda, when he called lightning down from the sky in the Last Jedi, that, like, he doesn't need to do anything in particular. He just needs to will it to happen. But because the dark side users the power comes from within rather than flowing around and through, that if he requires lightning to be projected from his body in some way. But ultimately, these kind of like telekinetic stuff is not necessarily an extension from the arms or the body to grab something, because he can do that through the telecommunicator with one of the peoples in Empire.
Yeah, right.
One of the Moffs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's just about whether he can mentally will this thing into existence.
So you think droids just have a lack of will?
I think that they're like their cognition in some way is not tapped into the Force in the right way to do that. But I just found it here. They've got advanced droid interface that they need a Force droid interface to upgrade.
So they're not like full people. They're only like a fraction, like 3/5 of a person, maybe.
So there's this problem in that people talk about with mind. What do they call it? Brain replication. That whether or not we can put a brain into a machine. There's two camps. There's substrate dependence, which means that we need a biological brain in order to create a first-person experience, or there's substrate independence, which means that as long as you are, creating all the right stimuluses, that consciousness arises from these things. And with droids, whether the droids are P-zombies or not would depend on substrate dependence in that universe. I'm personally a substrate independence person, or believer. I don't think there's any particular reason that you can't emulate a mind to 100% similarity on a machine. So
there was some fascinating article I was skimming recently where they were producing brain cells in a jar, and it grew like a facsimile of eyes or something.
yeah.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, I don't need to look that up later.
And I read about that too. People are like, "Oh my god," about it, but like, the whole point of nerve cells in general is to differentiate, to accept stimulus from certain places depending on their surroundings. And if they're in like a lit environment, I think even the photons would create some differentiation in order for nerve cells to accept that that information from the environment so that they can actually do something with it. Like, I don't think that that's particularly controversial to have discovered, I guess.
And I guess this just has me thinking, with the whole comment, like, what is the most important part then? Is it just a brain? If I put a brain in a droid body, can it use the Force?
Like Grievous, if Grievous was trained enough in his Jedi arts. I
think so.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Interesting.
Tim?
You're good. I mean, honestly, since Kyle reminded me of midi-chlorians, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, right, that thing was interesting canon, and it's affected how we interpret a lot of things now. So now I'm like, nah, they probably can't actually do it according to what George has laid down, because they need midi-chlorians in the blood. Unless they can find another way to get midi-chlorians into droids. But I, from a philosophical perspective, I do think it should be something that droids can use and tap into. Yeah. So we're just going over into Tim's ideal for Star Wars.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
there must be some sort of like convergent evolution that enables droids to tap into the Force in a way that's different from the way that organics do it.
Yeah,
because
that's entirely possible.
Just like the chloroplasts in plants have evolved from different sources. There's different types of chloroplasts. There's different kinds of eyes that that are evolutionarily distinct from each other. That's
true.
If we just find out a way to also tap into the Force that's not dependent on midichlorians, like say kyber crystals.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got another through line to manipulate the Force.
This. I like
what if you put a
this.
kyber crystal in a droid? Yeah. That's cool. I like that idea.
I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me that midichlorians weren't the end-all be-all, but we don't have confirmation of that, so it's entirely possible.
I don't think they should be the end-all be-all.
I don't think so either.
No. Yeah, I think it should be just one path into these things.
Yeah. And I like to think of it as like a way to interpret potential rather than like the actual ability someone could achieve.
So do you think droids would adhere to like the light and dark part of the Force though? Or would they just kind of like be neutral?
I think droids can develop independent personalities that would lead to similar dilemmas. Because I would say R2 is one that has developed an independent personality.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is why he's not a slave, unlike C-3PO that had his mind wiped many, many, many times.
Right. Many times.
Yeah, and I think that's just such an interesting part of the droids, how they regularly need to have that programming reinforced through mind wiping. And that they do eventually evolve to be independent of beings. And that's why I think of them as people, because they show the capability to learn and evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, another thing I thought was interesting in this chapter was, it was mentioned. I believe you guys told me that Order 66 hasn't happened, like, is not a canon thing in Legends.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that it's just Jorus just like, the Darth Vader just hunted down all the Jedi with with a small force,
with a few dark Jedi.
It's kind of cool, honestly.
And he mentioned that there was other dark Jedi as well, and I wonder if that's a way to kind of wink at Mara Jade, and say that like she is also considered a dark Jedi in this bubble, or
that's how I interpreted it.
No, I don't
think so. Huh?
I don't think Jade and Vader ever worked together.
I don't think they have to work together, but they can work towards the same purpose independently.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait.
Also, Jade just seemed more of a spy than
than a dark Jedi. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it wasn't her like explicit purpose, but I think it's a mission that she could have been sent to do occasionally here and there when her skill set was needed for it.
Yeah. Do you think that like Vader is just the last of the dark Jedi? That, because I mean, in I have the comic here of the original script of The Adventures of Luke Starkiller. He it does seem like Vader is the last of these knights for the Empire that exterminated the Jedi.
That's cool.
do you think that's the kind of image that he's going for in this thing? Or, previously, I can't remember if we talked about it in the last book of like, what is the image of the Clone Wars from just this book? And I said, was it I said? I think I did. That we said that the clones were clone Jedi that created a kind of Jedi civil war between light and dark Jedi that have been cloned of each other just to eliminate each other, to turn the galactic population against each other, and then have them fed up with the Force users, and then just kind of have this political extermination of the Jedi that went along with their actual extermination. Do you think that's what this might be referencing? That other dark Jedi in league with the Emperor are the clones, just like C'baoth is a dark clone? Or
I think that's very possible, yeah. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah. But I'm just, it's quite interesting to think that there is a league of dark Jedi, like kind of like the Knights of Ren, I guess, would be.
The Knights of Ren is more of a biker gang.
Yeah.
But I see what you're getting at, yeah.
Yeah. The Knights of Ren are just those street bike gang from the Book of Boba Fett.
Right. Oh, God.
What if they were rival gangs?
I got too deep into midichlorian knowledge on the wiki.
Oh, no.
The Knights who say
What can you tell us from here?
I was reading a rough draft of episode 3 that where Palpatine is telling Anakin that he made him inside of his mother's womb using midichlorian manipulation.
Oh, God.
I kind of wish that was a little bit more explicit, because then it would
Me too.
give more credence to Rey becoming a Skywalker in the end of The Rise of Skywalker. Because if the Skywalker is just an offshoot of the Palpatine line, then it makes sense that you could choose that thing. But like, I know there's like themes of found family and whatnot in supposedly in that film.
Yeah.
In all films,
There are.
really. But like, my Aya with last names being a thing, why can't you just be Rey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rey Nobody was my favorite outcome.
Yeah.
I think the real issue with
Just
it is that it lost the point of like Skywalker just being like a super like common name, like nobody name.
Mm-hmm.
And so her being like I'm a Skywalker is like me pronouncing, you know what, I'm gonna continue the line, I'm gonna be a Smith.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be a Bezos. Suddenly I'm a billionaire.
Right. To me, it's indicative of a problem with a lot of J.J. Abrams movies, which we've discussed before, specifically with Star Trek Into Darkness, which is that his stories involve things that mean something to fans, but not the characters in the universe.
Yeah.
It's important to us, like it means something to us that she's a Skywalker. In universe, I mean, there's Luke Skywalker, there was Anakin Skywalker, but then there's Leia Organa, and then Leia Organa Solo.
Yeah. Why couldn't she be an Organa? Because apparently they got very close in between the two movies. So yeah, you want to be the legendary, I'm Luke Skywalker's, foe. What would she be in Relic? So if we assume that that Anakin is a kind of son to Palpatine, which would make her brothers with Rey's father. So that makes Luke her cousin.
It's found family. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I was just thinking of that thing where someone pointed out that right after Han Solo dies. Leia hugs Rey, and Chewbacca's just standing there, and it's like his best friend just
Yeah.
died.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if she got really close with Leia between the movies, I think that would have been, even as a fan, that it doesn't make sense. Makes more sense inside and outside to say,
Oh, yeah.
you know what, I'm going to be Rey Organa
Yeah.
from now on.
A big reason I have a lot more sympathy towards Rise of Skywalker instead of Force Awakens is that, like, all possible versions of Episode 9 that they were planning had Leia as the center.
Yeah.
And so when Carrie Fisher passed away, it really crippled like all their current plans, and they still wanted to like come out around the same time as what they had already scheduled. And so instead of taking the time to rework the story the way it needed to be, or even just like recast the role, which I would have been for, we got what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, if Carrie had been there to act with Daisy Ridley in person and we get that relationship developed, then it definitely would have softened that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Made it more believable.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of speaks to a little bit of patriarchy in the way that women are kind of tossed aside and their names are forgotten through history because they are married out into new families that, that could have been, for all the feminism that was shoehorned into these movies, that would have been a much more powerful statement to say that, like, she's an Organa rather than a Skywalker.
Yeah, it would have been pretty powerful.
Yeah, because Leia was very prominent in the history, and as we're seeing in Ahsoka as well, like, she's a big part in the political era in creating the new order in the galaxy, not just like this mystic Jedi that is kind of esoteric, but she did real political groundwork for what should be a little bit more appreciated, I guess. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And acknowledged.
Yeah. It's just it's really frustrating what we got.
No.
Yeah. I wish they hadn't like adhered to that schedule, honestly. Like stuck with it. I think that was the hard thing ultimately. Because I mean, J.J. Abrams was like the only person willing to still do it pretty much. And even for Episode 7, like so many directors turned that down because they were like, I'm not touching Star Wars. Like, I saw how the prequels were received. Like, that's just a mess to jump into. Yeah.
A little bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the content of this chapter, because this was a really good chapter. I really liked how we're contrasting the way that Luke handled his deliberation and C'baoth is handling his deliberation between Newkov and this planet. I can't remember what they called the town, but on Jormark, we've got Luke being quite indecisive, and he's not there with all the information because one of them doesn't speak a language that he does, and he needs two other parties. He needs both Niles Ferrier and Lando to come in and help him mediate this decision, whereas C'baoth is very much at the top and saying, like, okay, you've said all you've got to say, here's my decision, that's it, this is where it ends today. Whereas, even in the decision that Luke made, that in the end, there was a third party involved to make money changes done, and then even after that, there was a carry-on of, well, you could just tell other Barabels that not to work with this Rhodian because he's not going to pay you he might not pay you in the currency that you're expecting. So there was like carry-on consequences, whereas C'baoth is expecting that, like, okay, today's decision is final. Nothing carries forwards. Everything is settled right now. Back to work, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Luke's decision made echoes in whatever was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a lot of contrast between just those two examples that we have.
Yeah. Luke treats people like people, whereas C'baoth is very, I don't know the exact right word you would use, but I mean, from this chapter, I got the impression that he very much thinks of people that don't have the Force as people who can't make any informed decisions on anything in life.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, I think he views them as animals, and he's like the shepherd in a way.
Yeah. And I kind of get the impression that he thinks that the Jedi are above everybody, almost as if they're like royalty in a way too.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just peasants to the Jedi.
Yeah. And
Luke's
with the people. He was in a rebellion.
Yeah, and Luke doesn't agree with that kind of mindset either, as C'baoth, and I think that's another reason why he's conflicted. He's like, wait,
Yeah. I mean, one of our introductions in the second chapter of the first book was, like, our first introduction to Luke. He talks to C-3PO and says, a Jedi mustn't let greater concerns get in the way of the individuals of the... And so I feel like that's one... What we're seeing here is that he does believe in more nuance and more than just sitting above everybody else.
It tracks with Return of the Jedi as well, because I think Obi-Wan and Yoda were both thinking in terms of greater concerns of defeat Vader and the Emperor, and Luke sensed the turmoil within Vader, and he
sensed the humanity within him.
And he capitalized on it.
Yeah, I think also, like, Luke wouldn't have defeated the Emperor without Vader's help.
Right.
Yeah.
So even him going to face Vader, like, that was a suicide mission. Whether he turned Vader or not, he probably didn't expect to come out of that alive. Just because of how powerful the Emperor was.
Yeah. But it shows how he was going in there thinking through a mindset of individuals rather than greater concern.
Yeah.
He was focused on one individual in this case, but the philosophy tracks with this book.
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't really agree with some, like, I think most good examples come at the extremes of, I don't want to say left and right, because that's politically charged. That most good examples come between the two extremes of what is presented in a text, that there shouldn't be one absolutely correct interpretation, that both should be some shade of gray, so that the audience finds their own meaning between the two. Because while I don't agree with how disconnected C'baoth is from the people that he is passing judgment to, I also don't believe that the way that Luke handled, the Barabel is going to be, you're creating prejudice against the Rodian for future dealings with Barabels. And I don't think that that's also a good way to set up a judgment either.
Yeah. It's very cray of you. No, but it is a good point, honestly, because, I mean, it is also good to think about potential repercussions of actions. At the same time, it's also important to remember that they're only potential.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tricky. This
Yeah.
Jedi stuff is tricky.
As it should be. I think, a lot of
Yeah.
these things come down to, it's you can't really give sweeping decisions. And I think that's where, ironclad law really falls down
Mhm.
in the people. And that's why there is this, the Jedi have the guidance of the Force, but they're not there to make individuals suffer along the way because of
Yeah.
what is the letter of the law.
Yeah. Sure, C'baoth's method may be solving some problems permanently, but I think Jedi are there more to just like assist with problems and help people rather than solving them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I also see the weakness in Luke's judgment of setting up that prejudice against some people. That like you're not taking it on a case by case basis. That now you're saying, well, if anybody who wants to do business with him, maybe don't engage in that business or whatever. Like, yes, building up reputation is a thing, but giving them opportunity to learn from their mistakes and grow past that is also important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In which I see that is a part of C'baoth's punishment, is that after this deliberation, he's expecting for people to learn and change and grow and take on the very painful lesson of, follow what is told to be right.
But will they actually learn? Is he just building resentment amongst the people against him?
I mean, Luke, he reached out and tried to read the room when they first came to the city, and there was no warm feelings, there was no hard feelings. So I think there is something to be said about, burying the hatchet every time to say, like, what, this is done. We're not carrying this forward to tomorrow.
That's fair. I'm just getting caught up on the he fucking shocked him with Force lightning thing.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke seemed very confused about that too.
I get what you're getting at, Stuart, but I don't think that kind of extreme usage of pain is ultimately going to have that effect.
No, I also agree with that, but
okay, cool.
Let's get
In
into it.
in philosophical terms, like you're right. It's just C'baoth's being a
Yeah, for sure.
And that's going to ultimately, I think that's going to ultimately carry more weight in people's minds than the lesson, whatever lesson he's trying to teach. Yeah,
I think also C'baoth doesn't care about being one of the people either. He sees himself as above them, and so he is willing to be a kind of martyr, I guess, for what he deems to be justice. He doesn't care if he is praised or vilified for bringing justice. He just believes that justice should exist, and
that's true. Yeah,
I don't know. There's a kind of nobility about that, and I wish we had more governments that acted in that way of like, well, I know you don't like nuclear power, but it is so much safer than coal-fired plants, so we're just going to do this, and you have to put up with it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
But I think that it does come down to the point of like he's making somebody suffer for this, and
but I'm seeing a lot more nuance to this than I initially did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I really liked about this chapter is like it really kind of like started pickling my brain. And I want to hear you guys. See where you guys landed on that.
Why is Force stuff always the most interesting?
What do you think about lightning in this? Because like it seems he says he's not permanently damaged. It's just pain is the image that we seem to get from C'baoth.
Yeah, I mean they even say it's like even when Luke checks him out, he's like, yeah, these are just angry red burn.
Yeah. Like, he didn't seem to do any lasting damage. It's just for the pain of it. And
You're right.
if that's
Right.
the case, then is
like
this such a bad... It's certainly not Palpatine in creating, I don't know, a torture and crippling this guy. It's merely a method, as C'baoth sees it, to making that memory deeper into his skull.
Yeah, but I don't think pain still causes trauma, and I don't think traumatizing people is a good way to teach them lessons.
No.
Traumatizing creates a set of involuntary instincts that occur at specific stimuli. It doesn't create understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but C'baoth doesn't seem like somebody who's interested in that.
No, because he thinks he has understanding and they
Right.
don't, and so therefore the way to punish them is to create trauma.
Yeah, but I also get I personally get the impression that C'baoth kind of has a little bit of a sadist vibe too. He kind of gets a little bit of joy out of it.
You think so?
I think so.
He seemed very dispassionate, I thought.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, dispassionate towards who they are.
Towards his judgment. He is just there dispensing judgment of, like, he didn't seem to get any joy out of that. He seems to get like a sense of purpose maybe, but like the thing that the closest thing I would say to a passion is like Luke and other Force
his
users.
abs.
Working those abs.
Yeah, no. But no, Luke and the other Force users, yeah.
I get a real vibe of, with how Jorus is acting, and it's like, this will be the most devastating day of his lives. For me, it is Tuesday.
Right? Yeah. Well,
It's the Drax meets what was it? Drax meets Thanos in
right.
Infinity War.
Right, yeah.
So, why do you think that Luke didn't react more strongly to the presence of Force lightning, or this display, considering how traumatized he should be of
I'm so intrigued by that.
I think it's mostly of like, I mean, he's only met, because he's only met one person who has used Force lightning, but like, it's not like explicit that only Dark Force users use it.
Yeah.
I guess, but I mean, he would probably. I mean, I would have expected Luke to be way more triggered and traumatized to see the lightning again.
I mean, if we also are going to go with the idea of it being like an extension of the user's will, then he would have felt the malice as he was being electrocuted, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think goes back to his dispassionate about this thing, and the fact that he can throw dispassionate lightning.
True.
Is a little.
I don't
know. Yeah.
Which is interesting because that's what the Avatar Last Airbender lightning is like.
Passionate? Dispassionate?
Dispassionate. Yeah.
You
need a cold, clear state of mind to create it.
There's a kind of purity about it in Avatar.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Dispassionate Force lightning. Maybe that's why the damage is different, but then again, Luke didn't seem burned by Palpatine's lightning.
Yeah. I wonder if that's like movie decisions that did this thing, or like he was still playing with Luke at that point and not really trying to kill him, because like here's the mouse playing with the rat, not sorry, not the mouse playing, the cat playing with the mouse. It's they are in totally different power leagues, and he probably didn't feel that much of a threat to end it quickly until Vader just kind of like switches to Anakin, and then his one weakness being easily throwable
Yeah.
comes into play.
Yeah. I love Luke's conclusion of C'baoth at the end.
That he's just insane.
Yeah. I love how that just like stunned R2. R2 took a full minute to think about that.
Well, I mean, like, I think he has a fair point. I mean, he's talking to elderly people who have known extremely great loss. Even when he like first runs into Yoda, he's like digging around through his backpack and throwing apples at him.
Yeah. Huh. I think. Yeah, because I get in the end, Luke's hints are that he's not quite right. He mentions the outbound flight project, and he says, "Well, that really changed me," and he doesn't want to elaborate on that.
His moods are changing often.
Yeah, he's quite unstable emotionally, which he could be taking some way. And then he also connects this to the Force ghosts of I was around Ben and Anakin and Yoda, and their ghosts appeared to me. So I am a kind of anchor for them because they died around me. But he hasn't seen any other Force ghosts. And so he wonders if the 5 Jedi Masters that died when C'baoth went on this outbound flight project created a kind of, I don't know, haunting poltergeists that are attached to him that is causing him to go insane.
Yeah.
I do like he's like, I don't know, man, it's not a theory. It's just a theory.
What do you think about that? That they anchor themselves to Force users that are around them, rather than what we get, which is that Yoda wasn't around when Qui-Gon died, which Qui-Gon appeared to Yoda. And so Force ghosts seem a lot more mobile. I don't know how to say it. They've got a lot more freedom when they die.
This anchor interpretation, to me, goes against the Jedi philosophy on attachment. Just like it's a big counter to it.
I get that.
But maybe that's just what naturally happens, and the Jedi just don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's always possible.
Yeah.
The only thing that says Jedi are good is Word of God via George Lucas. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think the attachment is a little bit of a ludicrous notion. And even I don't know. I think the worthless thing is I just don't. There's not a plethora of Force ghost knowledge that I have.
Yeah.
I guess in this point in history, it also makes sense of like why other Force ghosts don't appear to Luke. Like, why can't he just go query a bunch of dead Jedi Masters to say, "Hey, how should I be teaching my sister? Hey, can you give me some pointers with this Force technique?"
Yeah.
That it becomes the like super esoteric technique that first Qui-Gon's one of the first in history to discover comes from.
Yeah.
That's what I think Luke should be doing right after the whole war ended. Like, is he should have been like plundering any hole that he can find, trying to find any sort of Jedi information, a pamphlet, a book, a scroll, a piece of paper, because the fact that he's just like, well, two people told me a little bit of information in under a month, so I basically know everything I need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Luke does what you suggest in new canon.
Right, and it's like even here, because when he comes to Jorus, he's like, oh, I just need some tips on how I should train Leia's kids, well, for when I am required to do so. And Jorus is like, oh, so you're good, you're ready to train people, huh?
Yeah.
What's this hubris I see in front of me? Well,
I really wonder how much these books were a prototype for expanded universe additions to canon at this point, because I don't know if the tiers of canon like existed at this point. So maybe they were like playing it a bit more safe, or George Lucas was a bit more like restrictive at this time, and so they wouldn't be adding to like Jedi mythology or adding much to it at all. Whereas in later stuff, I mean, they very much had the attitude of everything is canon until George says it's not.
right.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hmm.
Which is honestly what I find like so fascinating to read about these books specifically.
I think at this point, George had done interviews that said, look, they do their thing, and as long as it doesn't conflict with me, that can exist.
Yeah.
I just, I think it was a little bit more like seen and not heard situation at this time. And then when George was writing the prequel trilogy, that stuff would have been a little bit more tight-fisted.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
What do you guys think about the Outbound Flight project? What do we know about it so far?
Wasn't it supposed to be like an exploration outside of the galaxy?
That's what they say, yeah.
Not really any thoughts on that.
No.
We still don't know how it was shot down or brought down or whatever, right?
No.
Under whose command or whatever.
Yeah. So, control effing. We get one mention in the first book, which is when Thrawn says, well, of course I know about that project. I killed them all. We get that.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the beginning of this book, it says something about that the original C'baoth was Outbound Flight Projects. That the original C'baoth was highly instrumental in convincing the Senate to authorize and fund the Outbound Flight Project. And then we don't get much from Winter, who has no details. And then I guess Luke here as well, asking C'baoth, saying, well, everybody died and it was just looking for life outside the galaxy. You guys have any other, I don't know, interpretations around that information?
Maybe it's an Event Horizon situation.
What does that mean?
Have you seen that movie, Stuart?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. I just watched it today. It's an expedition using, oh god, how do I explain it? There's a lot happening, honestly. It's a complex premise. There's an expedition from this one space crew using an engine that travels faster than light by folding space. And but Earth loses contact with them. But then several years later, they get a transmission from them, and so they send another crew to go investigate what happened. Yeah. So maybe an experimental flight that went wrong.
Okay, I guess I'll have to watch this movie then.
Yeah.
Getting no spoilers from you.
I remember it being pretty freaky, but I watched it like in the late 90s, so I don't know.
It is very much a 90s movie.
Yeah, by nowadays standards, it's probably not as scary as I remember it, but yeah.
No, it's still pretty freaky. Yeah. It just has a fun camp tone to it. Yeah.
You're saying that ship mysteriously disappeared and shows back up, huh?
Everybody's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing like that happened in this book.
The Dark Force. It's coming somewhere. If we finally get back to talking about Card. Huh. So Luke wonders as well whether he was in league with Palpatine. You know, we get that comment about there being Dark Jedi in league with Palpatine that helped with the downfall of the Jedi. But then he says, no, I was out of his reach. He just couldn't come. I was out of his like area of effect. So, but then Luke has his doubts of saying like, well, what if the Empire had deliberately left a Jedi alone in obscurity, and has to think about what that might imply. I couldn't come up with anything. Do you guys have any ideas about why, if, you know, this is not what the case is, but if this was the case, what should Luke be thinking about a Jedi that was left in obscurity?
I think, I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's not a out there concept, you know, just like there are people all over the galaxy. I'm sure there are. It would blow my mind to hear that there are Jedi outside of the galaxy into the deeper end of space. You know, it's like when Alderaan was annihilated. They didn't get rid of everybody in Alderaan. Not every Alderaani's not dead. They weren't all on the planet when it blew up.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I think him just being like, well, he didn't find me because I was out of reach. It seems a little bit like, oh, that's an odd statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it more as like, you just got lucky, dude.
Right. Well, because it also implies that he was aware of it. Well, I mean, maybe it doesn't. But if he was like, he implies that he was aware of it, but was just kind of chilling on the sides. He's like, haha, you can't see me here.
Yeah. I guess the two strongest contenders for what it means is that either the Empire thought that he was ineffectual to cause any trouble, or maybe these, you know, Jedi that are left alone are ineffectual, and so maybe Luke doesn't have a lot to learn from people that are either cowardly or aren't willing to stand up for strong morals, if that's what he really values. That, you know, on some side there is a thought of like, these people are ineffectual or they're invalid in some way, but, you know, are these the people that Luke should be putting on a pedestal to say like, okay, you're my new master, not new master now?
I'm still fully set that this clone is the project of making Jedi to have a larger force army. He is a clone that is basically set to guard the project of one of many projects in the mountain, and that he has to, and like every time they made a new clone, they would send that clone to kill the current guard of the mountain, which is still him.
Do you think we're going to get like a Jorus the Third coming in at some point?
I think this is
Try and
Jorus. This is maybe like this might be Jorus like the 40th. Like I don't know.
Yeah. But like, is this cloning facility going to send another one just because it's like automated or something? Send another one to go kill him at some point?
No, I think this is the last one because Palpatine died. So now this is the one that's been left out in the sun for too long.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like the director's been shut down since Palpatine died, and so he's just like the last one left.
I do not think he is. I don't think he is stable mentally or physically. I think that's why he works out so much, and I think he's trying his best to try to get new Force users as fast as possible, because he knows that he's gonna start losing his goddamn mind soon.
Do you think he's going to try and perform like an essence transfer on Luke?
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
Essence transfer.
Or any Jedi that
put his soul in Luke's body, steal his like body snatch him.
I don't think so.
No. He just wants to brainwash him into being the new cult leader to continue the cult.
Well, this right. I mean, I think he, like I said, I was debating earlier with this chapter. I've been debating whether or not he knows he's a clone or not, because if he has been here for a while, guarding this project or whatever the heck he is doing, he is aware. But the reason why, I think he's in denial that he's a clone. I think anything. I think he doesn't want any droids around him. Not because he doesn't like droids. I don't think he wants. I think it's incredibly weird that the scanner on the ship isn't working.
Is that what it says? Or it didn't pick up anything unusual?
No, he said it like nothing. Well, yeah, that's weird that nothing is coming up on this secret. Because isn't there like some secret project just under the mountain nearby them?
No, that's on a different planet.
That was on Wayland, though.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
You know what? I think maybe he doesn't like droids because he can't induct them into a cult the way he does with organics. He doesn't feel like he has the same kind of control over droids.
I totally think that's it.
Yeah. I think I kind of get that vibe too, yeah.
There's no challenge in being a droid master.
Right.
Upload a new patch. That's it.
Why did I think Jorus was guarding something on this planet?
Well,
was it because
I always thought he was placed on Wayland by the Emperor to guard the cloning projects there.
He was on Wayland.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I thought he was there because Palpatine put him there. I always thought that.
Okay.
But then on this planet, Luke was like, oh, look around for something that might be deformed in some way, twisted by the dark side, because he wants to look out for something like the dark side tree.
Yeah, on Dagobah.
On Dagobah, yeah. To
and
maybe give an indication of how he's been hiding, or...
Right.
So I was definitely looking for something, or expected to see something there in that way. All right, you guys are looking a little bit tired. Do you want to get to anything else before we call this a day?
Let's talk more about Bigfoot versus DB Cooper.
I'm always up for talking about that.
Yeah. I thought there was this one interesting thing Luke said where he said, "I'm not a healer. Why do I keep trying to be one?" It was something that he wondered to himself before Jorus DM'd him to come hang out.
Was it? He was thinking that on
No,
Nkllon?
that was near the end.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When you say DM'd him,
No, I'm saying no. He literally enters his thoughts at the end of this chapter. He goes, Luke.
Right.
And then Luke's
I thought
like,
you were
oh,
talking about
Jorus
the
is
first
calling
time he
me.
entered
Yeah,
this. Yeah,
that's
okay.
what I was referring to. Yeah.
Okay.
Luke the pillow fort is set up.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought this was interesting because like I think a defining moment for Luke is his influence on Vader's redemption, and to me that's indicative of a healer. And so the fact that this is something he doubts about himself, to me, was really interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, maybe not healer, but savior is also part of his, because he goes from Dagobah to Bespin to be the savior of his friends because they are tortured by Vader, and then again in Jedi, he is the savior of Anakin Skywalker.
That's a good distinction.
So maybe he's not. He thinks he's acting as a healer, but is that different from being a savior?
I think it depends entirely on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a good point. Like, what do you think that Luke is? Like, obviously he's got some, like, combat prowess that he's losing himself to the training droid. But he's not particularly a scholar. What is his stat spread?
Where's the skill tree at? How many points does he have in charisma?
I think he's maybe a +1 in charisma.
Yeah.
Too low.
That fanboy charm.
Yeah.
Fanboy charm +1.
Yeah.
He has little intelligence, so he doesn't have much there.
Well, if
Wisdom
intelligence
is also... Does he have wisdom or intelligence, you think?
I think more intelligence than
Yeah,
wisdom.
More intelligence than wisdom. Yeah,
Definitely
definitely.
low wisdom.
Yeah, because he has skills.
Right.
He could definitely pass the tinker check.
Yeah.
Tinker Jack? What's a Tinker Jack?
It's what like artificers.
Right.
I would say he's a strength intelligence character.
You think strength?
Yeah.
I would have thought he was a dex character.
I think he's more strength based on how he fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. So dex intel, but he's handicapped in some way. Because he got a minus wisdom.
Yeah, but also not really because of his whole Skywalker blood situation. Yeah. So he gets like a +20 to force ability just because of that. Yeah.
Maybe it's not a plus to wisdom, but it's just he cannot fail force checks.
Yeah, maybe.
He's got some sort of immunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm not sure if he knows how he sees himself right now. And I mean, because his role in the original trilogy at this point is over, and now he has a different role.
Yeah.
And he has no clue how he can do in it. And I think Luke often gets into his most dangerous emotional places when he's not sure of himself. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this goes.
Yeah. I mean, he seems to be firmly in C'baoth's clutches now, so...
Yeah. But also, not really.
Yeah, I guess he's got his doubts.
Yeah. And I mean,
he's in the jaws of... He's in the lion's den.
Well, if you say someone's insane,
That's
I think that's a pretty definitive judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, taking the KOTOR character classes, do you think he's a Guardian, a Consular, or a... What's the other one? Consular.
Sentinel.
A Sentinel, yeah.
Oof, that's hard. It's hard because you can approach it as the philosophy of each class, But then you can also approach it as what are their actual stats and abilities.
Their skill sets, because I would have said
skill
he's possibly a guardian trying to cross train as a whatever the consular one is.
Philosophically, I would say so.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
In terms of actual skill set, I think he's a sentinel.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking more. I think right now where he's at, I think he's more like closer to a guardian, but
No. He does whip out that lightsaber whenever there's trouble. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's the difference between philosophically and what can you actually accomplish with a stat spread in the game. Which in that perspective, I think sentinel. Yeah.
All right. I think that's bedtime for everybody.
Yeah.
Bedtime for Luke.
This has been the Lost Holocron. You can find transcripts, links to discussions, and more at our website, lostholocron.com. While you're there, you can learn you can support the creation of future episodes. Read on, and we'll be waiting for you in the next transmission. We will be honored if you send us pictures of Jorus C'baoth in a crop top. Good night, everybody.